Hello, guys, and welcome to the marketing sessions on EB Academy. Believe it or not, this is the third time I'm trying to deliver this session. The first time my audio didn't work. The second time the video didn't work. I've kind of run out of things to break, so I'm guessing this time everything is going to be fine. Welcome to the session about the marketing funnel. I'm going to start with the funnel session, and then afterwards, in about 25 minutes, I'll move to the on-ground marketing session. So just stay tuned for that as well. Cool. So before we talk a lot about the marketing funnel, I want to talk about something else. And it's a 4-letter word, and that 4-letter word is love. Yes, I want to think first about the relationship funnel. So if you've ever been in a relationship, you probably understand that it usually starts off with some kind of first date where two people meet each other, they kind of get to know each other, they're seeing, is this a person I can click with? Is this something that I want to try again, have another date with them? And if that works out well, it moves into casual dating. So meeting more often, maybe getting exclusive, seeing how much time you want to spend with the person. And if all that went well, then it can even move into a serious relationship where you're meeting the parents, you're maybe moving in together, definitely making a lot of commitment to each other, and that's great. And then after some years that have gone by, engagement can follow. So some proposal will come, and a promise can be made, and then the ultimate commitment of marriage, sticking with each other for life. And that's kind of the funnel of the relationship. It sounds a whole lot like our customer flow, doesn't it? So attraction, of course, kind of the early getting to know each other, from having never met the person or never met Isaac to now knowing who they are and knowing if they're interested in each other. Consideration, considering spending more time together, investing some resources into each other and seeing if this is something that's going to work out. Value delivery, the engagement, the marriage, being together, and brand advocacy, when in the end we return back to the beginning, which I guess is not necessarily exactly how a relationship goes, but up until there, I think it's very similar. And you can have a marriage where you talk good about each other, and that's also some kind of brand advocacy. So I want to talk about this so that you might get an easier grasp of how the marketing funnel works. The marketing funnel is essentially some kind of representation of the customer flow, but it looks more like a funnel. What is a funnel? A funnel is like this kind of shape. It's like upside down triangle. And it's, in this case, a model which illustrates how our customers move from the first awareness of the brand all the way over to being promoters of the brand. Inside the funnel, there are separate stages, just like in our customer flow. But there are stages which they're a little bit more explicit here. So you'll see what I mean. The first stage is awareness. So we're trying to get people from having never heard of us to being aware that we exist. And this matches up with the attraction stage of the customer flow, right? And then we go into the interest stage, when people not only know that we exist, but they're interested in what we do. It connects with them on some level, and they have some kind of interest for it. Then we move into the intent phase. In this part of the funnel, people are not just knowing about us. They don't just have an interest and care about us, but they also have an intent to do something with us, to maybe get our product or work with us in some way. And then we move from intent into purchase. So now it's not just an intent, but an actual action, a promise, a commitment is made. This is kind of where we get our approves, and contracts are signed and everything. Then in between, in this funnel, you don't really see it, but the value delivery is happening. The person goes on exchange, and when they come back, then the loyalty phase can happen. So people who had a really good experience with us then become our loyal brand advocates, our brand ambassadors, and they tell their friends and their family and other people about us, and thereby funnel our awareness again. So a couple of things I want to talk about. When we have people going from interest to intent, we talk about going from being leads to marketing qualified leads. And leads in general are people who, they're the people who we most think are most into our product, and they're most likely for us to end up going on exchange. Kind of, they're our pipeline in this sense. But when we talk about marketing qualified leads, we're even a bit more specific. So this is when your team, maybe they've gotten in touch with this person, there's been some communication, and in that communication, you figured out this person is not only interested, but first of all, they intend to go. Also in this peak, they have the resources to go, they have the time to go, they have some sort of expectation from the whole thing. So in this moment, the person who maybe was interested but cannot manage to go right now on exchange, they're not moving from interest to intent, and they're not becoming marketing qualified leads. But those people who were interested and also had the intent to go, obviously they move further down the funnel, and that's what we call a marketing qualified lead. Cool. And then another note I wanted to make now that you're looking at the funnel is that in the end, your end goal is to grow not just in awareness, but in general, you want to grow in exchange, right? And for this, you have a couple of things to do. You cannot just increase one part of the funnel. If, for example, you're increasing the awareness section of the funnel and you're getting twice as many people to know about ISIC, but none of those people are actually moving to the interest phase. So you're getting a bunch of uninterested people like to hear about us. This doesn't help you in your end goal. At the same time, if you're taking the same people, but you're increasing the interest part a lot, but nobody's moving to intent. So you're getting a bunch of people to hear about ISIC, and they also are really interested in ISIC, but none of them are getting the call to action to do something about it, and nobody has the intent to go and exchange. That's also not helpful. So what you need to do is find where in the funnel is your bottleneck, where's the thinnest part, and figure out how to grow that in order to widen the entire funnel. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that you can also make sure that your funnel is as smooth of an experience as possible for your potential customers. So you want to make the funnel shorter in a sense. If you have a lot of different touch points and processes and communications that are necessary for a customer to proceed, and it's a rough experience for people, then it might be that people fall out of your funnel before they reach the end. And that, in essence, is making it more narrow. So a way of widening your funnel indirectly is by making it also shorter and more smooth. Good. So questions you want to ask yourself here are, how is your marketing process represented in each area of the funnel? And does your process in this area of the funnel contribute to the end goal, like we just talked about? And lastly, what could you do to make your funnel more effective? So for you as VP, as a strategic head, you need to be really clear about, in each phase, what are the processes that are happening? What are your members doing for awareness? What are they doing for interest? What are they doing for intent? So that if you can see from the numbers that there's a squeeze in some part of it, let's say an intent, nobody is reaching intent, you can know that these are the processes that aren't working and that you need to change them. Great. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on each part of the funnel, starting off with awareness. So awareness, this is where we have strangers, people who have never heard of ISIC before, and visitors, people who are now hearing about ISIC for the first time. And the goal is to build general awareness, right? We're not trying to send people on exchange during this part of the funnel, but we're trying to build awareness so that the strangers turn into our visitors. And in our relationship equivalent, this is basically the first date, when we're trying to, we're not trying to propose to the person to marry us already, but we're easygoing. We're trying to see, is this something that's gonna happen? Is this something that's interesting? Are we connecting with the person? This is the awareness phase. Questions for yourself to know how is it going in this phase and to evolve it. Where is the first touch point of the ISIC brand in your LC? This is super important. We know a lot about the last touch point usually because people sign up on isic.org. They also let us know where they heard about ISIC. but my guess is that they're often putting the last touch point that we had with them before they sign up, because a lot of them are putting info stands, a lot of them putting like they heard about it from friends. But it's important for us to understand the whole journey. So I think one thing that we can actually improve on here is when you call your EPs or when you start talking to them more during their journey, understand from them also what was their journey in getting to know about ISIC. Did they hear about it through a lecture presentation? Did they see a Facebook post? What were the different touch points that they managed to have? Then for yourself, list down every channel you use, both digital and physical. Make sure that you're super aware of those channels and map out the interactions. So make sure nothing is random. As an example for this, if you're having an info stand and you're giving a certain message and then you're having a lecture presentation with the same message, and then you go to the event and there's maybe a completely different message there, it doesn't work as well as if you have a thought process in your head of how you want your customer to go through this. Let's say you have an info stand and let's say you have a lecture presentation and you tell people about the info stand. And during the info stand, you remind people that there's an event coming up, and they go to your event, and at the event, you tell them to sign up on isic.org. And this way you have a certain journey mapped out and everything kind of correlates with each other. And this can be a very smooth experience for your customer. Cool. Here I just wanted to list out the different kinds of touch points that we can have. So this session was actually not originally mine. That's why some of the words are not necessarily what we use in Austria. But still, global village, some LCs do this, but generally any kind of event that we're holding, it can also be, for instance, the Mahlzeit Austria event or the Youth Speak Forum event, these kinds of internal events that we're having where people can engage with us. Also info stands, marketing stunts, lecture presentations, newspaper or newsletter articles, and these are our physical realm. And on the virtual side, through our Facebook page, our Instagram page, through emails that we can send out to our student base. And then the next thing down is that we're not trying to send everyone everywhere to isic.org. This would be a mess, and through a lot of people would not trust us enough yet from that touch point to actually sign up and create an account. So what we do is we have an intermediary step. On the physical side, it's usually an info session. On the virtual side, it can be some kind of landing page where they can get more information. They can calmly understand more what this is all about. We nurture them here, and then we propose them to create an account. Second phase of the funnel, interest and intent. This is the goal of converting our visitors into leads and marketing qualified leads. So for us, what this means is we need to nurture the people who are visitors already. We need to get them to sign up, first of all, and show that they're interested. And then we need to stay on top of them and follow up on them until we understand what's their state that they're in, and inspire them and give them whatever they need, motivation or knowledge, to actually turn into marketing qualified leads who are very likely to, in the end, become our exchange participants, right? And this correlates with the customer flow phase of consideration. And it correlates as well with the dating part of the relationship flow. So this is the part when, you're investing in each other a little bit, you're meeting each other more frequently, you're enjoying your time together, and it's definitely heading somewhere and you're trying to figure out where that is. Questions for you. How do your attraction activities drive the end goal? Again, don't do attraction activities which don't drive the end goal. If you're doing something for attraction which is getting a lot of signups, but all those signups are not applying for anything, then you know that something is potentially wrong. What comparisons can be made about your brand on your campus? So be really aware of who are your competitors. Maybe there are other organizations. Maybe they are simply the university curriculum. Maybe there are other activities people do on your campus, and understand what are the brand experiences people go through with them. Are they maybe really visible and constantly in students' faces when you are not? So you need to make sure you stand out within the crowd that's in your market, right? And thirdly, what experience do your leads go through before applying? So this is a really important point, which is that before someone can have a customer experience, before they become a customer, they have a brand experience. So from the very first moment they hear about our brand, they're probably going through some experience. And this can be an accidental experience, or it can be an experience that we shape. And of course, it's a lot better if we shape it and if we have a plan of what kind of experience we want someone to go through before they become our customers. because then they'll be more likely to become our customers. Cool. I'm going to skip a couple of slides here, which is about lead scoring. We can talk about it more during Taco if you want, but this is basically like how to communicate with your EPs to try to figure out if they're going to be marketing qualified leads. But I wanted to move forward to the next phase already, which is purchase. In the purchase phase, as you can imagine, this is when the customer makes the decision to actually go with the product, go on exchange with us. This is when we get our approve. We're converting our marketing qualified leads into our actual customers, and we can start with value delivery on the customer flow. Or on the new customer flow, we can start with preparation experience. In the relationship flow, it's equivalent to the engagement, and in a sense also equivalent to marriage. So this is when the promise is made, commitment is made, and you're going to stick with each other for the rest of your life, essentially. 2 questions here, although these questions I think are also good to talk about in Ma's webinars. How do you support your customers in their leadership development journey before and during, and indeed after the exchange opportunity? And how do you keep your customers engaged with you while they're on their leadership development journey? So important questions to make sure that not only the brand experience is good, but the whole customer experience as well. And lastly, at the bottom of the funnel, we have the loyalty. So after the experience is over, how are you making sure that people are coming from being customers into becoming loyal brand advocates? So once they finish with their experience, how can you make sure they are a resource that you can use to try to attract more people? How do you make sure they're talking good about you, and how do you make sure they're even talking about you, right? I don't think that in a relationship equivalent, this is so much like marriage, but essentially it's like having somebody who talks really good about you to their friends, and who makes you more popular. Questions here. Who are your brand advocates? And this is a really important question. I think we need to all be more aware of who are the EPs who are actually really happy and willing to talk about us. Not only to their friends, but who are the people who we can invite, for instance, to our events to speak about ISEC and their experience with us, or who we can invite to our info stands to talk there. And how do you make your customer a promoter? So maybe somebody had a really good experience, they really loved it, but they came back and they just disengaged with ISEC, and they were never inspired to talk about it again, even though they had a really decent experience. So what are the things, the calls to action you need to give, and the action steps you need to take to make sure that somebody comes from being a really happy customer into being an actual promoter? Good. Next question, how do you engage and reward your customers after their experience? So this is what I'm talking about, right? You need to keep people engaged and make them feel like they're getting something out of sticking with ISEC, and even though they've finished their exchange already, making sure that they're still sticking around long enough to become our brand advocates. And last question, do you actively use the brand advocacy workspace? In Austria, we don't have that, but we have a knowledge database which contains the B2C Hustlers folder, which contains a folder called brand advocacy. And here is where it's really important that you are putting all kinds of content that your EPs are sending you, be it photography or videos or blog articles about their exchange, so we can use it to actually showcase it. And this is where brand advocacy happens on the virtual side. So make sure that you're actively using that with every exchange participant. Cool. This is a short flow that just shows the different channels on the left-hand side. And as we move down the funnel, different channels have different importances. So in the beginning, we're using websites, social media, emails, also events to attract people to us. Then we move to leading them to isec.org, and we have this event OP sign up. This is when they become an open. From there on out, it immediately changes. So we're doing lead nurturing through our old channels, but we're also meeting them and servicing them, helping them to apply. Then they become our customers, and we're no longer using the channels we used to use. We're communicating with them directly, supporting them, giving them value delivery. And when they become a promoter again, we move back to the original channels as ways for us to communicate their exchange stories, right? Good. This, I think, is a super important point as well, which is that not every customer is going to go through the funnel that you designed for them, because some people will just walk, jump, skip, get lost. They will do all sorts of things. Some people are incredibly proactive and sign up, and they become applieds and accepteds in 1 or 2 days. Some people sign up on ISIC.org because they're generally interested in it, but before they ever reach the intent stage, maybe a whole year has passed. So you need to understand that not everybody has the same pace. However, you can affect their pace through the activities that you do, right? Through the calls to action that you give, the quality of the brand experience you provide them, how confident you end up making them that ISIC is the right choice. It's something you can affect. And at the same time, you should have some kind of funnel or a journey designed for them. So even though not everybody goes through the same path, if you don't have a path, an optimal path in your mind, an optimal journey, that you think, okay, in the best case scenario, people are going to first go to our lecture presentation, then they're going to hear about the info stand, they're going to come to our info stand, then they're going to hear about the event. If you don't have this designed in your head, chances are people are just going to go through their random funnels, and you won't be able to affect it at all. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, and you won't be able to change that. So it's important that you start out with designing a perfect funnel for yourself. And throughout the whole term, you're still going to be able to evaluate if this is the best funnel. Because the first question you need to ask yourself during the term as well is how many people are actually going through the funnel that you created? And what's the percentage of people who are going through a much faster funnel? And what's the percentage of people who are going through a much slower funnel? And based on this, maybe you want to change how your perfect funnel looks. But just make sure that you have one. Next important thing, where are the people getting stuck? This is what we were talking about at the beginning. Where's the point in the funnel where things are just too tight and people are not moving from one stage to the next fast enough? And how can you figure out how to change processes to fix that problem? And how do you track your return on investment? So every time you make an investment, whether it's financial or your time or HR, so your members' time, how do you make sure that, first of all, do you know what it is you want to get back out of that investment? So if you put your members at the info stand, do you know whether you are trying to get opens or event signups or what it is you're trying to get? And how do you make sure that you track that ROI? Good. Do you have questions? I think I couldn't see your questions, but you don't have any questions. Okay. Then I will just go on to my question for you, which is, what is the difference between a lead and an MQL? And if you know the answer, go to bit.ly/VP Academy and type in the answer. And if you don't know the answer, then you probably want to watch this video one more time because I was speaking about it at the beginning. And if you fill out all the quiz questions, then you will graduate the EB Academy, and that'll be amazing. Good. I'm going to move straight on to the next session then, which is the on-ground promotion one. I'll just need a moment to stop screen sharing and to switch to my other presentation. Fantastic. Now we're going to talk about on-ground promotions. So this is perfect that we're doing this directly with the flow session because you'll remember a lot from it. On-ground promotion, if you think about our customer flow, and I know we looked at the old one in the previous session, but you will probably have already seen from Mao's video that we have a new customer flow. It starts out with attraction, moves into consideration, but then it goes into preparation before the experience, into experience, and then post-experience. And then hopefully it either brings you back to consideration to go on another exchange, or like you bring other people to ISIC and they go into the consideration phase. On-ground promotion is especially valuable for attraction and consideration, and that's what I want to talk to you about for now. Essentially, in our promotional activities, we split between on-ground promotion and online promotion, right? Or you can also say physical and virtual or digital. On-ground promotion are all the things that are happening literally on the ground. So on your campus, the activities that you're doing physically where you're approaching students. This usually includes, or this should include, in your case, lecture presentations. It should include info stands of some kind. Maybe it can include a stunt. And I'll get back to what this means. It can be about flyering, and it should be about events. So I'll go into a little bit of detail on each one of these so you understand it better. So for lecture presentations, this is usually about a 2 to 5 minute presentation at the beginning or at the end of a lecture where you explain to them what it is that ISIC is and what is the product that we're trying to sell them right now. And you try to get them excited and hyped up enough that they're going to follow up on this, right? Maybe you leave some flyers at the front. Maybe you just have the website. But through lecture presentations, you're trying to make that first impression really good so that they're going to check out ISIC afterwards. Info stands are an attractive, static campus engagement, as I would define it. It's something that attracts people to it. So you shouldn't just be standing there with a table waiting if somebody will catch your eye. But it should be something where you're pulling people towards your info stand, saying, hey, do you have a moment? At the same time, it should be an engagement. It should be engaging. So it shouldn't also just be a table filled with flyers, but you can have some kind of activity that people can do, that they have fun with, that they enjoy, and that they positively connect ISIC with. And yeah, it's static. So different from flyering or from stunts is that this is happening at one specific table on campus. And that's info stands. A stunt is essentially some kind of eye-catching, dynamic, memorable engagement. So sometimes we talk about flash mobs, although I think that's a very specific type of stunt. It's something that you can be creative with. There's no one way of doing a stunt, and you really need to understand your market and your university and your students before you can do an effective stunt. But it's something that really catches people's eyes if they're walking past you, and makes them want to stop and figure out, like, what is this all about? We have flyering, which is quite obvious, although the way we flyer in ISIC is maybe not the same as in other organizations. We're usually stopping people, like approaching people and asking them first if they're interested in general, and then we're giving them a flyer, because this helps us save flyers, but also it engages people in conversations and makes sure we have more qualified leads later on the platform. Then we hold events, and events are usually not just about ISIC, but they're in general events about some specific subject that somebody can get, an added value out of coming to this event. And we use it to convert usually strangers to opens, or people who are already opens and have platforms, have already accounts on the platform, to become applieds. What's important to remember is everything needs to have a call to action. In marketing, everything needs to have a call to action. People don't go to the next step if you don't tell them exactly what it is they need to do. And during the lecture presentation, typically we're recommending them to go to isic.org and find out more, and eventually also to sign up. And we're dropping the event. So the way that it should work for your Onground promotion is that at the start of the peak, you determine a few dates upon which you're going to have events, maybe 3 or 4 event dates, and then you can use all the other Onground promotion touch points to lead to that event. So for info stands, it's very similar. You're trying to get people to be opens or come to the event, or both. For the stunt, the same. For flyering, the same. And at the event, you're trying to get people who have not yet opened to this point to open, and the people who have to apply to opportunities. Good. Just wanted to show you a couple of pictures here of how an engaging info stand can look. So I believe this is ISIC and Linz. They have a frame that they can take pictures with the frame, and at the same time it's informative and shows the SDGs. They have free food, free drinks, free coffee. All in all, this is the kind of info stand you would want to stop at. And once you've stopped, it's obviously much easier to initiate a conversation and move it towards ISIC. This is an info stand, I think at an outdoor fair or something. It's from ISIC in Bochum. And they're obviously approaching someone too young for our age group, but in general, I think also here, it's engaging, it's orderly, and there's this fun color wheel that people love to spin it and see if they win something, and then you can engage them in conversation. And lastly, here we have ISIC in Vienna UV in their main building at the University of Vienna, and they have the roll-up they have a big wall with lots of little pictures and things that people can get interested in. They also have goodies. They have a laptop right there so people can have a call to action immediately, and also the color wheel. So all in all, these are good info stands. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. We're always trying to look more professional and more engaging, but these are at least info stands where there's something happening that people can get interested by, and not just the bare minimum of having a laptop and maybe a few flyers. Good. Moving back to the different kinds of on-ground promotion that we were talking about. If we combine having these kinds of touch points with having online touch points, so let's say we have also Facebook and we maybe run some ads on Instagram, then it's super important for you to know that people don't go to one of these things and then become customers, right? So one example could be someone comes to a lecture presentation, and at that lecture presentation, they hear about ISIC, they're into it, but they're super busy with their lecture right now and they leave and they don't sign up. Then they walk past the info stand. They're super busy still. They don't stop at the info stand, but they look at it, they see ISIC, it rings a bell in their head, and they remind themselves, ah, shit, okay, I got to go to that website. I wanted to sign up. And they actually see Facebook, there's a picture about Youth Speak Forum, and they look into it, they click through it, really interesting stuff, not yet ready to sign up yet. Now we're also on Instagram, and over the name is becoming really known to them in their heads, and it's something that shows that we're big and we're professional, and that at the end of the day we're trustworthy as well in some way. And at that point the person decides, okay, I'm gonna go for it, I'm gonna go to this event, and they actually come to the event, they speak with us there, and they end up signing up for ISIC here. That could be one way someone does it. Another way could be they never heard of ISIC before, and we're flyering on that day, and they pick up a flyer. Oh, this is interesting. I've never heard about this before. And they go to their class. And when they come out, we're in the middle of a stunt. And they're like, wow, this ISIC, it's really cool. I still don't really know what it's all about, but they do fun dances. That's cool. At the same time, they're scrolling in their next class through Instagram, and they see an Insta ad. Also on Facebook, there are ads. And it leads to them wanting to go to the website where they see there's an event happening, and they sign up for the event, and they go to the event and create an account. This could be another flow that someone has. But what's really important is that very few people are actually convinced from one touch point that you have with them. At the end of the day, it takes an average of 7 touch points to convert someone. From the first time that they ever heard of you until the time that they hear about you, and it's enough for them to say, okay, now I'm signing up, I'm going to go with this, it takes an average of 7 different touch points. So why is this important to remember? Because if you expect that every one of your on-ground activities is going to have the same kind of success in converting people to sign up, you're going to face a lot of difficulties and a lot of challenges and a lot of disappointments. Especially also with on-ground marketing, if you're investing into this, it's very few people who are actually convinced enough by seeing an ad to create an account. But usually it's a combination of all these different touch points, and the more the better, that convinces people that we are everywhere and that we are a real organization that provides real value, and that rings a bell in their head often enough that they are actually confident enough to make a buying decision. Cool. So that's kind of the why of why we're doing all these different on-ground promotion activities. The what of it, I've tried to summarize in on-ground guidelines. I'm not going to go through all the on-ground guidelines with you right now. I'm going to click through them so you can see how they look like and what kind of content is there. But in the end, you can open them for yourself, and make sure you do, because there's a lot of valuable information inside. So it talks about how to be the brand, how to level up your info stands, your lecture presentations, and your flyering and stunts. Yep. So there's a couple of rules of how to be the brand, how to embody the brand when you're doing some kind of promotion for ISIC. Then for info stands, I have some tips. Make sure that you have some kind of hook, like I was saying, something really engaging. Make sure you have some kind of food or drink or something that people always want when they're walking around campus. And don't just give it away for free, of course, but you could trade it, for example, for filling a customer research survey or for watching a video together or having a conversation with you, after which you give them a Red Bull. Don't talk about ISIC right away. This is a very easy way to lose your customers if you immediately go to the topic of ISIC and yourself. People don't usually like this. A good way to start talking to them is start by talking about them. Right? Ask them, what's your name? What do you study? What do you want to do with your life? Okay, that's a bit intense, but talk about them and you can start a conversation which you can later and showcase EPs who have come back from their exchange here. Like I was saying earlier, this can be a really big plus. There's some more tips here, making sure you have a call to action, making sure you have a goal for every engagement. Never do an engagement like an info send if you don't have a goal for it. Have different responsibles, make it comfortable. And then also some tips for your lecture presentations, talking about how you should do practice before you do one, or how you can use a script in a good way, making sure that you have visuals. Yes, how to make sure that you are tailoring the presentation to your audience and having a clear call to action. And lastly, also with your flyering, make sure that your flyers are actually having the info event dates on them. So you could have it on the, a good way to do it is to print little papers that have the date of the event on them, and then you can just cut it up and staple it. It's cheap and it's doable for every LC, and it makes the flyer seem a lot more useful to people. And a GCP I can also share is you can even advertise a free drink or a piece of food to the first people who arrive to the event. So now it becomes some kind of coupon that they can get something for free with if they come to the event. And a couple of other tips here. We also have some pickup lines for you to try out if you don't know how to approach people. Some of these work better than others, but it's for you to figure out what's the best for your market. That is the current version of the Onground guidelines. You can find it in the knowledge database under B2C hustlers as well, and then I think in the attraction folder. Make sure that you look at them because it's a lot of information there that you can apply, but it takes your commitment and proactivity to make sure your Onground promotion is not boring and experience. Cool. If I want to leave you with something, it's with this concept of 7 touch points. It's really important that you keep it in mind that even if you're investing time and resources into lots of different promotion, but it doesn't seem like some of it is being converting, then just understand that different kinds convert. Just doing one thing, it's never going to work. People need lots of different touch points to make a buying decision. And this is a common thing in all of marketing. Your quiz question for this session is going to be, what are the main types of Onground promotion and what are their benefits? And as usual, you can answer at bit.ly/VP Academy and make sure you do so we can graduate you after you watch all the videos. That's it from my side. I hope this third try at this session worked out better than the previous ones. Thank you for joining if you joined live. Thank you for joining if you didn't join live, but later on. Have a good night. Thank you guys. Bye.